go through and you think through, can I predict it? Can I predict when it's going to happen? Can I predict when it's not going to happen? And then you think through the circumstances surrounding both of those events. You know, like I said, I'd use the example of, because this has been one we dealt with a lot with parents, is getting, you know, kids giving up their, like getting off something with technology. That seems to be a big promoter of defiance. No, I'm not going to go, you know, and that's, and so as you begin to think through the circumstances about what leads to defiance and the circumstances of what doesn't, and again, thinking of what's usually happening before and then what happens after. Like, what do I give a lecture? You know, do I just let them get away with not giving it up? Do I just finally cave and say whatever you want to do? What happens afterwards? And once you've kind of identified that, you know, it just even doing that will probably prompt a behavior change in you. Like, for instance, one of the best for kids who are oppositional and defiant, a lot of times they get a lot of reinforcement, meaning like it maintains, you know, your attention, and that helps to maintain that behavior. Meaning that the more you lecture them and you argue with them, the more they're going to argue, because that is kind of the process. And so one of the best strategies that you can come up with for that is, before you're in the moment, think of what you want to say. Before you go into it, think of what you want to say. And so I think of these things like, what do you really want to threaten? Because, I mean, I've heard things threatened that nobody's going to follow through with, you know. And I've heard things promised that nobody's going to follow through with. You know what, Mike, if you just will turn that off, I'll take you to Disney World. Well, you're not going to take the child to Disney World, and you know you're not, but you're desperate, and you start throwing out things, or you think things like, you know, you're never going to eat again. Well, you know you're going to feed them again, so you don't threaten something you're not going to follow through with. But whenever you do this and you begin to think through, you know, and have something. So like for me, I have my standard saying, and this is something I came up with when Solomon, our 11-year-old, was little. It always goes with, you know, something to the effect of like this. Solomon, you can put on your shoes, or I can help you put on your shoes. Which one? And I've stopped. And that's because, you know, the goal is his shoes are going to go on, and he can do it, or I can help him do it. And I give him a chance to choose, because, I mean, this is one of the things with defiance, you know, they're like, oh, well, they need a chance, opportunity to choose. So I give him a choice. You can put them on, or I can put them on. Which one? And then I wait. I give him about 5 seconds to let him make a decision. Okay, I'll help you put on your shoes. You know, and then I don't have to do it in an angry way. I don't fuss. I don't say, well, if you would have obeyed me, then you would, you know, it's nothing like that. It's just like, okay, that's your choice. I'll help you. And my bet would be, well, I can say for our middle child, for Noah, you could see his wheels turning. I mean, you can even hear him turning, because he'd be like, let me see what's going to happen if I don't put my shoes on. And so I just started putting them on, and he hated me putting his shoes on, but I never fussed. I didn't yell at him. I just, like, it was a guarantee. But it's your choice. And so thinking of things like that, thinking of things where you can say, if you get off if you turn off the TV, you can watch it again later. But if you don't turn off the TV, you can't watch it later. That's it. And then give them time to think, you know, because they have to process, do it. Now, is Mama and Daddy really going to follow through, or are they not? And the likelihood is, if you have a history of not following through, they're going to test you, and they're just going to say, no, I'm not going to turn it off. So you may have to, you know, then you can bring it back. Well, would you like to turn it off, or would you like me to turn it off? Which one? Okay. So then you turn it off, but then you have to remember that and not allow them access to the TV that night. Right. I'm sorry, earlier you chose that. And I mean, and don't expect them to be like, Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for making me a responsible human being. Because they're not going to say that. They're going to be like, I hate you. It's all your fault. You make everything terrible. But but when you get that response, when you follow through in a non-emotional way, you have to just be able to say, I'm sorry, that's what you chose. And then be able to turn and walk away. And believe me, you can you could hear a pin drop sometimes whenever you just turn and walk away and you don't engage in the argument. And you just go back to, I'm sorry, that's what you chose. That's it. I mean, that is, and they can keep arguing with you. But you said, I'm sorry. I hate you. You're the worst parent ever. You know, tomorrow's a new day. Maybe you can earn some TV time tomorrow. And I think that's the thing where we feel like it's just human nature where we feel like we have to have the last word.
Sure.
If we don't get the last word in, we have failed as a parent. I've got to give my stamp of approval to the last word. And there, take that, you know, and that's
Mic drop.
yeah. You know, and if you're dealing with a kid who really is good and defiant, they know every button to push on you, and they can play you like a, you know, like a drum. I mean, it's like, watch this. If I say this to Dad, watch him get mad. Boom, whoa, and my arm goes up every time. Boom, whoa, you know, and it's an amazing thing to watch how this plays out. And so what we have to do is understand that, you know, our kids know how to play us. I can just tell you right now, when I was a kid, if I needed money, I would bypass my father to go ask my mother, because my mother would give me $1. My dad would say, go cut somebody's grass. I mean, I knew that. I even knew that as a kid. Like, I need $1 for something. I'm gonna go ask Mama, because I knew Mama would give it to me. Your kids do you the same way. They
Right.
know what your buttons are. They know how to push your buttons, and it doesn't make them bad. It makes them a person. Because I mean, you know, as a spousal relationship, we know what the buttons are for our spouses, and we can push the buttons on our spouses when we need an emotional response. We can get an emotional response if we want to, and that is, again, doesn't mean that your child is a bad child. It just means they're a human being, and that's what we do. I mean, we know how to do that, and that's, you know, so the idea behind this would be, you know, just as a broad suggestions, and would be, you know, come up with what words you need to say, stick with them, say those words, and when they try to pull you into an argument, you just have to go back to those words and like, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. And I've seen that even with my mother and sister as adults, you know, as in their 60s and 40s. I've seen the same thing happen where my mom finally gave up trying to lecture my sister on something. And, you know, and my sister, even in her 40s, still kind of poked and prodded to try to get a response. When it didn't happen, you know, and my mom was like, that's amazing. I can't believe that actually works. I'm like, yeah, I can't either, but it does work. So you just we have to be willing to change the narrative.
Sure.
And that's a hard thing, because getting the last word, if we don't do that, then we think the child has won. And the reality is, every time they get an emotional reaction from us, they've won. You know.
Absolutely.
So, and of course, there's, you know, there's a lot more detail that can be given to individual parents' situations, and there's a lot of interventions that can be done for defiant behavior. There's a lot, and there's so much more. You know, and I think for parents to understand that this is the way I'm talking about this. Basically, I have to talk about it in a very broad way.
Sure.
I can't be super specific, because, you know, it's just, I mean, ethically, you can't give very specific details to every parent without being in more of a consultative relationship with them. But nonetheless, these are broad ideas that do work, and that anybody can do.